In the church of my youth, one of the most oft-stated claims during testimony service, the service where members got up to testify about their journey of faith, one of the thing I heard the most was that God made a way out of no way. Or somebody would even pray, I'm praying that God will make a way out of no way. And they would tell you what that no way was. The no way to which many of these people who were very poor and very disenfranchised were usually referring was to any number of the great challenges before them that seemed to have no possible solution. The making a way usually was a miraculous financial gift for rent that came right before they were about to be evicted from their homes. Or it was the physical healing that came when the lack of health insurance made seeing a doctor out of the question, or when the doctors had concluded that there was no hope for recovery. The making of the no way was the escape from harm when the wind or the flood or the tornado left their home unscathed and everyone held harmless. And they could not tell you what happened. They could not tell you how it happened. They could not tell you what made the difference, other than they knew that God had delivered. And they would say, God made a way for me. And they would tell you that this was the source of deliverance for me. Oh, they would talk about their souls being saved. But they also told us about their bodies, their lives being saved. And we used to throw that word around. I'm saved. Are you saved? And usually what they meant was, are you saved from the destruction at the end of life? But when those people gave that testimony about things happening for them, they were talking about being saved physically. When Pharaoh finally capitulated to Moses' exhortation from God that Pharaoh let my people go, Israel takes her leave from bondage in Egypt to escape in the wilderness. Israel does not know how it happened, but God made a way and they were saved. Their very bodies were saved from slavery. But when Pharaoh sees Israel living free from his clutches, when he sees that he won't have the power that comes by enslaving and exploiting weaker people, he changes his mind. And he sends his soldiers and his chariots to capture them or kill them. They don't know. All they know is that their lives, their very lives, are in danger. And so once again, a weak people find themselves in existential threat from the empire. And with Pharaoh's army advancing, they will either be killed or re-enslaved. Caught in the middle between a ferocious military and a chaotic sea, Israel cannot imagine how she will survive. They cannot imagine. So fear comes. Fear turns to regret, regret to anger. They turn on Moses. They accuse Moses of leading them from a familiar place in bondage to die in an unknown place in the wilderness. We've been there. We've been in the middle. We've been there, caught, nowhere to turn. That space, liminal and uncertain, where all options appear to have been exhausted or not even imagined. And we know what it's like to come to the very precipice. Can I go forth? I can't go back. I'm caught. And oppression distorts humanity. We want to go back. Even when going back means going back to slavery. We want to go back. We don't know where to go. But God's imagination is the beginning of the way out for Israel. God's imagination, God's ability to see every part of what's going on, God's ability to respond to all of what's going on, not just the soul stuff, but the body stuff. God seeing it and responding. Moses has no idea what God would do. No, Moses, we hear people say, oh, God is going to do it this way. Moses doesn't know. Has no idea what God is going to do. But Moses knows enough about how faithful God is that Moses can say to the people who are caught in the middle between a ferocious military and a chaotic sea, Moses can say right there, don't be afraid. Stand firm and see the deliverance of God. Now, I know, somebody said, Moses, wait, let me explain something to you. Pharaoh is about to kill us. There is a sea in front of us. Now, I know God took us out of slavery, but Pharaoh and 600 chariots are bearing down on us, and there is a sea in front of us. And that's when our imagination begins to falter. But this is where Israel's experience of salvation usually gets lost in the wrangling over if God actually used fire and clouds to delay the advancing army. This is when it starts to break down. The message we're supposed to receive starts to break down when we start saying, did God actually part the sea? When we start debating, was it a sea or was it a marsh? See, we've already lost the point. You see that? Already lost the point. Was it a sea? And did God actually kill the Egyptians? Because no. I don't know if or how any of this happened, but I know this. Israel survived such that they can stand up and testify that God made a way for us. I don't want to invite us to avoid. I want to invite us to avoid seeing this through the eyes of suspicion. We can suspect a lot of other things. Let's bring that hermeneutic of suspicion later on. But here, let's not be suspicious. Let's not be suspicious right now. I want to invite you to avoid historicizing this and stop spiritualizing this. I don't want to do that today. We can do that all next week. I want us to look at however it happened, whatever happened, God actually saved Israel from bondage and then saved Israel from destruction such that Israel now can testify that God actually does save bodies. Saves bodies. And so here, salvation is not about saving my soul. Salvation is about saving me from death. Salvation is about putting protection around my body such that I live. And so powerful and so absolute is the rescue. A way out being made when nobody could imagine another way out. That Israel's testimony can speak in these terms. God acted so decisively and so powerfully to liberate Israel from bondage and destruction that even the Egyptians had to testify. We heard the Egyptians testify to Israel's God. And they said, look at that. God fights for them. Oh, I don't think you heard what I just said. The people who were about to kill them, the people who are trying to re-enslave them, they saw God act in such an imaginative and powerful way that even they stopped and said, look at that. God saved them. Oh, I know you want people who coming after you. You want to hear them say, God saved them. We live in a time that our churches over and over again tell us that it is about saving souls. And I understand the power of the spiritual transformation that comes when we encounter God, that such that our lives are so transformed and we want to live a different way. I understand that. But I wonder and I worry if we've gone too far in saving souls, that we've somehow forgotten that these are actual bodies, and the things that we say and the religion that we express and the theology that we proclaim can actually land and hurt people's bodies. Let me put it this way. If a child is hungry, the child needs food, not me talking about his soul. If a powerful man is sexually assaulting a woman, what she needs me to do is to stop him from sexually assaulting her, not saving her soul. If my trans sibling is being attacked by vicious, hateful people, I don't need to be talking about soul saving. I need to be talking about body and life saving. And that's what I think we need to stop worrying about, if it was a sea or a marsh, or whether it happened or didn't happen, and start talking about the cosmic movement of the divine that sees all God's children inexplicably and unexpectedly from that which can hurt them, and says, I'm going to save your body. I want us to see that there are times when God makes a way out of no way, when all the available evidence suggests that it is not possible. I want us to understand something, that God is not on the side of the empire that seeks to enslave, oppress, and exploit us only as voters or consumers, but wants our bodies to live free and openly and blessed by God. That's what I want us to see. The theologian Walter Brueggemann said that this whole battle between Pharaoh and God was a battle between competing sovereignties. That's right, that there is one view of the world, Pharaoh's view of the world, that is all about enslaving others so that you can get power. And then there is God's view of the world, where your very body should be free so that you can be in relationship with God as a free and autonomous person in community with God. Salvation that looks not just at souls, but as bodies, so that people are not hurt, harmed, and held in bondage. The world we live in would have us believe that our liberation from the things that bind us and hurt us and oppress us and enslave us can only be found in an individual, personal, spiritual experience. Change yourself, they tell us, and then everything will be okay. And isn't that an easy thing to tell people who are hurting? You do something about you, and we never have to do anything to protect you. You do something about you, and we never have to stop powerful people from harming your very bodies. You change you, and we never have to do anything else to make things right for the rest of creation. I wonder if the religious preoccupation with saving souls has diverted our attention from saving the bodies of a whole lot of people. If the focus on saving souls has made us a little bit apathetic when it comes to responding to hunger and disease and abuse. That was my prayer this week when we witnessed the political upheaval in our nation, with leaders fighting over a Supreme Court seat. And so many people were upset. You shouldn't go to Twitter as a exercise. Don't go. But I began to see the people talking And in between the barbs and the statements that people were making and the jokes and the rants and all of the things, people, just humans responding to their hurt and their pain, all of it was going on. What I sensed there, which worried me, was that everyone was lamenting that something has been lost. And there was so much indication that everyone feels dislocated socially, economically, even religiously. And they're confronting as best they can. We are confronting as best we can unjust systems and structures that promote things that just divide us. And we live in this empire that keeps telling us that we can't trust each other. We can't trust anything that and we are just disoriented. But here's what I want us to remember. That while we are looking for answers from our nation, or while we're looking for answers in the creeds and canons of religious expression, what if we stood together in solidarity and beloved community to take care of each other? That we start to look at salvation as something broader than what we've been using it for. Salvation that says that I see what you're feeling, I see what you're going through. You've been hurt. That salvation that says we look at those testimonies of people who say, me too, and we come to the rescue and say that we're going to do this, we're going to respond to it together. That we look at the upheaval in our nation and say, despite the fighting over there, we as a community of people are going to gather together and take care of each other so that we can save each other. Moses told the people, don't be afraid. Stand firm and see the deliverance of God. No, I don't think that Moses was telling them not to do anything. The stand firm wasn't saying be apathetic or be paralyzed with fear. But don't be afraid, stand firm. Don't be afraid. Be resolute in your understanding that this is not the way it's supposed to be. And see the deliverance of God, that God is also interested in how we exist as people right now. And then, all those who couldn't see it before, when they see our deliverance, when they see salvation in real, tangible ways, they'll look out and they will testify that God fights for God's people. God fights for vulnerable people. God fights to save people from destruction. Amen.